Hey, what's up? I wanted to make this video talking about my experiences before I was actually diagnosed as a narcissist. I don't imagine I'm going to be saying a bunch of things that are completely different from the things that I've already said across this channel, but I guess getting my diagnosis, there are realizations in terms of how I guess like I piece my mental processing better, because it's not like anything's changed drastically ever since I found out about my diagnosis. I mean, I'm attunedly, like, I guess I get to be more aware in terms of, how I process, such things from what I'm going to talk about, which, is not that different, but I guess, okay, there is a bit more clarity to it. And I guess I'm only saying these things because if you are somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, you'll never actually get rid of this. This sticks with you throughout like your whole life, and yeah, you kind of just like manage it. But I am glad I got my diagnosis, honestly, because yeah, it's put together a whole bunch of things that I've done but didn't necessarily know how to say. I've always gone through my life with an undefined self esteem, very inconsistent. And I know anybody watching this might be like, oh, yeah, well, everybody has, ups and downs in life, which, yeah, I understand. But I mean, something completely different. I guess because I'm talking about like, self esteem and in relation to, I guess, the perception of yourself. I always had this confusing thing throughout my life, and to be honest, it's still confusing now, but at least I understand where it's coming from. My, NPD, in terms of like, okay, why this is the way it is. The undefined self esteem, which are things that I still go through now. But throughout my life before, I used to always feel, okay, let's say whether it's a sense of like superiority or inferiority, all those things that I, feel like I've constructed for myself have always felt extremely real to me, which would be the confusing thing because I would go through moments of superiority and think, oh, yeah, a sense of arrogance, a sense of power, whatever, all that may come with that, and also would think that it's real. But I would also have moments where I would hate myself severely and, you know, be so hard on myself, and a little bit after it would all kind of just like fade away and disappear. And I've realized that, like, okay, my self-esteem is very much like in extremes, and depending on how good I feel about myself or how bad I feel about myself, because once those things go away, because any perception of myself is kind of just, like a construct or like an idea, quote unquote, there would always just be this like nothingness there. And again, I still go through this. And I guess even up until now, it's still kind of hard to process, but at least kind of like what I mentioned, okay, I go through this because I have this cluster B disorder, I have like NPD and stuff like that. So it's placed it, I guess, as consistent as it can be in terms of, where that's coming from. And speaking of something that's missing, back before I got my diagnosis, I used to look at myself in the mirror a lot. Like, yeah, it sounds like a like cliche, right? I don't actually do that as much anymore. But now that I like look back on it in like hindsight, I think that should have been like bigger indicators that I've always had, I guess, a very like confused outlook on myself, because when I look at myself in the mirror, it's not that I would necessarily think that like, oh, okay, I'm this like extremely like beautiful and great thing. Don't get me wrong, I've done that a lot, obviously, as well. But I think I enjoyed looking at myself in the mirror. Well, I don't even know if like enjoyed is like the right word to use, but it's like I would see myself. And that's the funny thing though. It wasn't really myself. I would be looking at ideas in terms of like who I wanted to be. Like, I guess similarly, even like when I see myself as I record this right now, I can just, at best build constructs in terms of like who I am, but in actuality, there is no real person there. Like there is no like actual me, quote unquote. And I've gone, through the years before like receiving my like NPD diagnosis in just, I guess, a sense of being like lost, essentially, because whether I felt good or bad about myself, nothing would ever retain, and there was just a feeling that like, okay, something was missing. I guess me, quote unquote, you could even say, because I'm not actually like in here, like there's no real person in here that actually like exists, quote unquote, and you kind of just see everything as like, I guess, performances and shows, and like you just go through your life thinking like, oh, where are you supposed to fit? And it seems like everybody else has it like put together. But then again, everyone has to play the persona, right? Blah blah blah, this and this and that. Or yeah, that's always what's been like super confusing about it. And after like just knowing that I'm a narcissist now, I'm like, wow, okay, that does explain a whole lot of my life. It explains, well, I think that that's kind of like the irony. It explains and justifies to me just why and how like so little I know about myself and my like self-esteem, I guess. Like self-esteem, ultimately, you can just say. So I don't know if you stumble across any of these videos like thinking that you may or may not be a narcissist, quote unquote. I mean, like like excuse me, everybody's situation is different, I guess. But if you kind of relate to this, perhaps maybe, all right, you could perhaps get yourself checked out, because at the very least, this is how it was for me. Still is for me, obviously, in a way. But yeah, I guess a whole lot of this just like led up to, oh wow, you're a narcissist. And okay, all right then. Life still goes on, but whatever. Oh, and I want to add that I used to always wonder if I was depressed, but when moments of like arrogance and superiority would come, it would kind of make me feel conflicted as to like whether or not I was, because a lot of my experiences would go after, feeling some kind of like extreme emotion. I would like sit in this like blank, hollow, like emptiness. And yeah, essentially it would feel like depression. But then when the superiority would come back, it would create these like mixed feelings of like, oh yeah, there's no way someone like me could be depressed, because I'm amazing, I'm awesome, I'm like everything that's like great that you could possibly imagine and stuff like that. And it would just keep happening like that repeatedly. And now that I know now that, okay, I am a narcissist, oh, I also have diagnosed depression, major depressive disorder, so I guess, yeah, that adds two and two together.